Narrator, calm, documentary tone. In a quiet corner of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, a farmer wakes before sunrise. No tractor engine breaks the silence. No chemical fertilizer truck rolls down the lane. Just a horse, a plow, and a method of growing food that has barely changed in 200 years. And yet, year after year, his fields outproduce farms 3 times their size using machinery, chemicals, and modern science. How is that possible? Today, we're going to uncover a farming method the Amish have quietly practiced for 2 centuries, a method largely ignored by modern agriculture, yet increasingly validated by the very scientists who once dismissed it. Visual. Title card. The 200-year-old Amish Harvest Secret, Part 1. A different relationship with the land visual. Amish farmhouse silhouette, wide shot, soft morning fog. To understand this method, you first have to understand something about Amish philosophy. For the Amish, farming isn't simply a business. It's considered a sacred responsibility, a way of honoring the land they believe was entrusted to them. This mindset shapes everything, right down to the soil itself. While much of modern agriculture treats soil as a neutral surface, something to be fed synthetic nutrients so crops can grow regardless of its natural condition, Amish farming treats soil as a living thing, something to be nurtured for generations, not extracted from for a single season. That single difference in philosophy is where this entire method begins. Part 2. The practice, crop rotation taken to the extreme. Visual, illustrated field map showing rotating crop sections through seasons. Most modern farms rotate 2, maybe 3 crops. Amish farms often rotate through 4, 5, sometimes 6 different crops across multiple years on the same field, a practice agricultural researchers call diversified rotation. Here's a simplified version of how it typically works across a multi-year cycle. Year 1, corn is planted, a crop that demands a great deal from the soil. Year 2, oats or wheat follow, grains that ask far less of the same ground, allowing it to partially recover. Year 3, a legume like clover or alfalfa is planted, and this is the quiet genius of the whole system. Legumes pull nitrogen from the air and deposit it back into the soil, naturally replenishing what the corn took the year before. Year 4, livestock are sometimes allowed to graze that same clover field, adding manure directly back into the ground, completing a full nutrient cycle without a single bag of synthetic fertilizer. By the time corn is planted again in that field, the soil hasn't just recovered. In many cases, it's richer than when the cycle began. Visual. Close-up of soil, hands running through dark, rich earth. Compare this to a monocropped field, the same single crop planted in the same soil year after year, which is common in large-scale industrial farming. That soil doesn't get a chance to rebuild, it depletes. And so, more and more synthetic fertilizer becomes necessary just to maintain the same output. The Amish method isn't a trick in the sense of a shortcut. It's closer to patience, engineered into a system. Part 3. Companion planting, the underrated layer visual. Illustrated garden bed showing corn, beans, and squash growing together. Layered within crop rotation is a second, older practice, one the Amish inherited in part from indigenous agricultural traditions. Companion planting, often called the Three Sisters method. Corn, beans, and squash are planted together, not separately, and each plant does something for the others. The corn grows tall, providing a natural pole for the beans to climb. The beans, like the clover in the rotation, pull nitrogen from the air and feed it into the soil, benefiting the corn growing right beside them. The squash spreads low across the ground, its broad leaves shading the soil, keeping moisture in and weeds out, reducing the need for constant weeding or irrigation. 3 plants, 1 field, each one solving a problem the others create. Visual. Time-lapse style illustration of the 3 plants growing together over a season. Modern industrial agriculture, by contrast, is built almost entirely around monoculture, single crops in single fields, because it's easier to mechanize. But easier to mechanize doesn't always mean better for the soil or for the yield. Part 4. Manure, compost, and the nutrient cycle visual. Compost piles steaming gently in cool morning air. Nothing on an Amish farm goes to waste. Livestock manure, isn't treated as a disposal problem. It's treated as the single most valuable input on the entire farm. Composted manure, layered with straw and plant waste over months, becomes a slow release, nutrient dense fertilizer that feeds soil microorganisms. The often overlooked living organisms that break down nutrients into a form plants can actually absorb. Synthetic fertilizers, while effective in the short term, largely bypass this biological process. They feed the plant directly but do little to feed the soil's living ecosystem, which is part of why soil health on many industrial farms has measurably declined over decades of chemical only fertilization. According to long term agricultural soil studies, the Amish approach, whether by tradition or intention, does the opposite. It feeds the soil first, trusting the plant to follow. Part 5. Why this matters beyond the Amish community. Visual. Split visual. Small diversified farm next to large industrial monoculture field. Here's what makes this story more than just historical curiosity. Modern regenerative agriculture, a movement now gaining serious traction among agricultural scientists and even large scale farmers, is essentially rediscovering many of these same principles. Crop rotation, cover cropping, reduced tillage, return of livestock integration. Researchers studying regenerative techniques have found that fields managed this way often show improved soil carbon content, better water retention, and, over multi year periods, yields that rival or exceed conventional chemical dependent farming without the same long term soil degradation. In other words, the 200-year-old trick isn't outdated. It may be ahead of its time, a system modern agriculture is only now circling back toward after decades of chasing short term output at the expense of long term soil health. Visual. Wide shot, golden hour, wheat fields swaying closing. There's no single secret ingredient here, no miracle seed, no hidden formula. Just patience, rotation, diversity, and an unwillingness to take more from the land than you give back to it. For 200 years, a community that most of the world sees as simply old fashioned has quietly practiced a form of agriculture that science is only now beginning to fully understand. Maybe the real secret was never a trick at all. Maybe it was simply respect for the soil, for the seasons, and for the idea that some of the best answers were never lost. We just stopped listening for them. If you found this fascinating, subscribe. We explore Amish traditions, history, and hidden knowledge every week. And let us know in the comments, which Amish practice should we uncover next? Visual. End card, channel logo, subscribe animation,